right after rates were way, way low. And then the Fed started hiking up rates. And we didn't know when they were going to stop. Every month, it felt like they were raising rates, right? And everyone, and I was in masterminds across the country, and everyone's like, all right, you got to hoard your cash, like be cautious.
All right, welcome Legacy Builders to Your Money, Your Rules, the podcast where real people build real legacies through financial literacy, strategic investing, and purpose-driven wealth. I'm your host, Teresa Villaruz, founder of the Thrive Movement, where we help investors grow their wealth in two places at the exact same time, inside of their own personal banking system and out in the world funding the kind of community-driven projects they care about most. Now, today's guest is someone whose mission is deeply aligned with ours, because it's not that he's just building freedom for himself through real estate, but because he's turning around and building it for others as well. You might know him as the founder of Bighorn Capital, but I know him as the guy who's on a mission to help 100 families achieve true financial freedom. Now, he's a master of creative deal structures. He's always finding ways to make real estate work smarter, not harder. And he's got a system called the Revive Method that flips the traditional real estate model on its head. Now, today, I've got the pleasure of sitting down with Casey Gregersen. And trust me, if you've ever felt like time was slipping away from you, this one is one of those conversations you're going to feel in your bones. Now, without further ado, let's welcome the amazing Casey Gregersen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Teresa. I'm excited. That's one of the best intros I've ever seen. I appreciate it.
Well, you're about to drop some wealth of knowledge and, action tips for the audience. So it's only right for us to give you like a really warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I know you're on a mission and it's about helping families take back control of their time. But what I really want to do is I want to first go back to your story for a moment. And if you don't mind just taking us back to the time when you felt stuck, maybe before the deals, before the systems, and walk us through the moment you realized that you needed to change the way you were building wealth.
Ooh, the first time I felt stuck. I've been like kind of an action taker, and I've always just created momentum from the start. But yeah, I would say early on, here's what I got one for you. You'll like this. So I bought my first rental property in 2010 when I was going to school up in Wyoming at the University of Wyoming, and bought that first one. And I didn't buy a second one for quite a while. I took my first full-time job at a college down in Houston with Shell. I was working for a big oil company. And finally, like a lot of other people, and I tell the story all the time, but I'm going to put a cool spin on it, is I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like a lot of other people. It was a book recommended to me, and I'll never forget it. So I'm working in the field in oil and gas. I'm actually up in Canada, up in Alberta, like north of Calgary, driving around all these old back roads, oil-filled roads, and I'm listening to Rich Dad, Poor Dad for the first time ever. And I remember Robert Kiyosaki, he's talking about like when he was growing up, he worked like a door-to-door sales job. And I immediately thought of like the guy that came to our door when we were growing up that was selling vacuums, and he brought the vacuum cleaner, right? And immediately I go to that, I'm like, I never did anything like that. I'm now in an engineering role where I'm learning all these technical skills and I'm really good at math. But I'm also a very personable person, and but I've never done sales, right? I've never had to do door-to-door sales. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I wish I would have done, like put myself in those positions. And I'm like, am I ever going to be able to be good at sales? So we'll call that feeling stuck, but it didn't last too long. It was more so like wishing I had that skill set. But what ended up happening was a couple years later, we bought our first franchise, me and my wife. We bought a Pure Barre franchise. So it's a women's fitness. It's similar to like Pilates or if people know like Cycle Bar. It's actually under the same umbrella as all them. And it was a franchise, and I immediately was forced to learn how to sell, right? We bought a business, and I had no formal training in sales other than what the franchise gave us. I didn't really learn it. You're always selling even as an engineer, but we weren't really trained to get good in sales. But what I ended up finding was this is one of my like superpowers that I didn't really even know that I had inside. But when I first started like having to sell that business, sell memberships, sell members, like build up that business, that first one, and it was like either figure it out or sink or swim. And I was really looking back on it. It was really where I first started to get the confidence of like believing in something and then getting other people to believe in it and showing them the value, and then ultimately the art of selling.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, like I was in the same boat as you. the reason why I went into marketing was because I didn't think of myself as a salesperson and didn't go that route. And I knew that like sales is one of the skills that successful entrepreneurs have to, gain in order to, build their business. But I've always thought like, I'm not a good salesperson. I can't talk to people the way like all these other successful salespeople do. And so I decided to go into marketing because it's somewhat like sales because we have to create copy and all that stuff that would sell. But it wasn't until I lost my W-2 job that I jumped into entrepreneurship and I was like, yeah, actually, I am a good salesperson. Let me lean in on that. Yeah. So that is so powerful, right? You've decided, it's more about taking action and, acquiring the skills that you need in order to build your business and make sure that it's successful. Once you realize that, you have to take these actions, what was your first move in terms of now in real estate, right? Did it actually, you said you're an action taker and you've always been that way. And there's times where you might get stuck, but you just keep moving forward. What does that look like in terms of your real estate journey? Because you did say you took your first property in 2010, then kind of didn't scale your real estate business for a while after that.
Yes, such a good question, Teresa. And the reason why is I think about let's go fast forward the answer to that question, and then I'll go back. But I've had this several times now. I've gone down to the No One Left Behind challenge, which your audience will probably know, with Pace and Jamil. And I've been a live closer, up on stage with some of the best with Pace and Jamil and Ingrid. And I get to be up there closing, and it's been one of my favorite things to do. But then the cool thing is you get off stage and then you get all these questions and all these people like, how can you think on your feet like that? How can you negotiate? How can you move that fast? And they're wondering, how do they ever get to that level? And that's how I want to answer your question is, what I found is, and the reason I'm sharing that story is I just shared where I started, right? I didn't even know sales. I'm like, I wish I would have sold vacuums door to door so I could have figured this out. I know nothing on sales. But I mentioned the first step was buying a business, sort of sink or swim. But then I started applying it to real estate, which was something I was already passionate about. I had bought my first rental property, then I bought my second and third one and started building. But what I learned was, and one of the best things I did was I invested in training myself in my education. And the first one I did this was back in 2019. It was called REI Game Changers. It was the first ever sort of mastermind training I ever paid for. And looking back, it was like $11,000. And I remember looking at that, and I knew these guys. I actually had met them in Midland, Texas, actually several years before. And I knew these guys were good guys. And I'm like, oh, 11,000, that's a lot. But literally, they helped me build out my entire direct-to-seller company, like how I run my CRM, how I do direct mail, how I text leads, how we do a book an appointment to the pre-appointment call to closing through Dispo. They gave me the whole blueprint, and they showed us through training. And to answer your question, what I did is I took that and I started to apply it, and I started getting on the calls. And the first calls, when I was talking to a seller, I wish I would have recorded those. I'm sure I did somewhere. I just need to find them. I think back in the day we used to use CallRail, so I should go back to my CallRail recordings and so other people can hear it, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I was, again, failing forward. I'm just going to get on the phone and figure this thing out. But at the end of the day, just having a conversation with people has always been the easiest way to do it, make it natural. But the thing I would say is just reps, right? I started calling people then. I started listening to other people's calls. I listened to Pace Call. I listened to Steve Trang. I listened to these high level closers, and I surround myself with the right people and I've done it. And here's how it starts to compound, right? You do it and you start to get better at it. And then you hear other people do it. And then it's supercharges it even more because you've already kind of got that foundation to build. And then that's how you refine it, keep getting better and better and better. And that's when I tell people I'm on the stage, I've been doing hundreds of these calls for years, had tons of reps, and then I continue to train myself. So I think it's doable for anybody, but it's really getting that foundation, starting to learn it, giving yourself time, and then you refine it. And you just like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, right? They refine their craft, practice it every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Fail forward, do your reps, and then repeat the process, right? Now, speaking about repeatable processes, I want to unpack a little bit on the Revive method, right? What makes it different from traditional real estate playbook? Because obviously you're using your experience, your knowledge from doing your reps, and then now implementing it in this method. How has it helped investors start seeing real results even when they don't have the hundreds of thousands of money sitting in the bank?
Yes. I mean, you got to think about fundamentally like why I created it. So this happened, this is super applicable right now in what we're seeing in the market. So let's rewind the tape like 3 or 4 years ago, right after rates were way, way low. And then the Fed started hiking up rates and we didn't know when they were going to stop. Every month, it felt like they were raising rates, right? And everyone, I was in masterminds across the country and everyone's like, all right, you got to hoard your cash, like be cautious. Like, and they were telling us because they've been through these fluctuations in the market where you're like, say you're trying to wholesale or fix and flip and you don't know where the bottom is, right? You could be running your numbers today and you don't know what that house is going to sell for in 3 months, which is something that a lot of people are facing right now in the market because it's just still uncertain. So I looked at that and I'm like, I don't want to stop. I don't want to give up. I want to keep doing deals, but I want to manage my risk, right? And I've learned this lesson so many times over, and it continues to be true, is always having 2 exit strategies, right? That's why I really like investing in markets like mine in Wyoming or Montana. It's even getting tough to do it in parts of Montana. And obviously you can't do this in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, right? But like in areas where prices are still affordable enough that if I can't flip this house, could I refinance it, put a tenant in there? Even if I don't make the profit, could I do that and survive and live to fight another day and hold this asset? Because when you've done that, and everyone I talk to who does it over time, you look back and you're like, oh man, thank goodness I didn't sell that property because look what it's worth now, right? So that's always been my second exit. So to answer the revive method is, well, what happens in those properties that you don't have that exit? Maybe it's at a higher price point, or maybe, again, the market is fluctuating. We don't know where it's at. I'm like, how do I structure a deal? Oh, scared me. Holy cow. That was my boxer. Anyway, my phone started talking. So I was just getting so amped in that, and then it startled me. So I started thinking about how do I mitigate that risk? And that's how we adopted the revive method, because I was doing novations, which was your original question, is like, how does it work? What's different, right? So in a traditional novation, you pay the seller later, and then you don't have to give them all the money up front. You also don't have to take all the risk. But I was like, well, what about on the fix and flips when I want to go put 20, 30, 50, 100? I've done this with $200,000 rate rehabs before. There's a lot of risk. You don't want to rely upon a novation agreement. You want to change the deed so you're in control. So I thought, okay, let's apply the same concept and let's go flip a house and let's partner with the seller, kind of like what you do on a novation. So what we did is we structured our deals and we just basically, and now I've now created a cool little ChatGPT underwriter to where I could share, and that's the thing I'd be happy to share with anybody in the audience who listens to this today. But it started with just a little Google sheet of like, hey, here is how you frame this up and show the seller, okay? And it's literally, you just show them the math. You're like, hey, this is how much you owe on the house. This is how much I'm going to give you up front if you need anything. This is how much the rehab is, which we'll come back to that because we're going to work on, that's where I like to build in some profit margin. And then I say, here's our closing costs, here's holding costs. And now the only variable we don't know at the end of the day is how much this property will sell for, right? So I like to give them 4 scenarios, like a high, medium, low, or I do like a low, low, medium, low, high, just 4 different ones, okay? And then I show them how much money they make in each scenario. Right. And if you're getting to know your seller and you're really solving their problem, you know what they want, right? A lot of times the majority of the time, people just want the most money, right? There are some people who are just like, I don't care. I just want to be done, get this thing gone, right? We see those all the time. But the majority of people are like, if I can wait 3 to 6 months for you to go fix this thing up and sell it and I make way more, like, why would I not do that? So that's what we show them, and we show them the different scenarios. And then what happens is we close the property, right? So we agree upon those terms, we close it. Deed changes from the seller to me. If they had a mortgage in place or whatever, I take over those payments until we sell it. And then I go in, I get my crews in there, and we go quick, right? That's the other sell of this, is like, we're going to move fast because both of us collectively don't really make any money until we sell this thing. So we move fast, we get in there, we fix it up. And once it's fixed up and done and sold, then we've already got that profit share defined, right? To where we know loan gets paid off first. I always make sure that my rehab budget gets paid second, right? That way the money I have into the deal is very safe and not compromised. And then after that, we profit share, and that's how they make more. So to kind of go full circle on that, a high risk, back to the sort of risk thing and the market being fluctuating. If you find the right properties, which we do this all the time, and they have equity, you're protected, right? Like, I've got a bunch of these deals out there right now where the market is not doing what we thought. And again, I disclose this to my seller on the front end. Like, there is no guarantees when you flip a house that the value is going to be worth this much. But now, rather than if I would have just paid cash for these fix and flips and now I'm dropping 10K every week and it won't move, and I'm like, I'm about to lose money. And I've been there and no one likes that. But now, ultimately, because of the way it's structured, yes, the seller's not going to make as much, but I'm still going to get paid back my rehab budget. You know what I mean? So there's a really long breakdown of why I love the Revive method.
No, that's amazing, because you're solving problems there, right? You're not just giving one exit strategy for the seller, like just sell it outright. But you're giving them multiple, you said 4 exit strategies, and really understanding what is their goal, whether it's like just be done with it or get the most out of the sale of the property. So love that. So now let's go back to your Mount Everest. Right. You mentioned to me, or on the forum, that you're helping. Your goal is to help 100 families achieve financial freedom. Can you give us a little bit of how are you going to tackle that? I know you mentioned through Revive method and several other things, but if you just don't mind just sharing exactly how you're planning to do that.
Yes, it's a question I get all the time. Right? It's like, okay, that's awesome. That's so powerful, Casey. But how do you help 100 families? Because it's a different target for everyone. And I've been talking about it for a while, and we finally executed on it a couple months ago, and we do it now quarterly. So it's through our 2-day workshop. So we get everybody. We did our first one in July here in Houston, and oh man, it was so powerful, right? Because we got everybody in the right room, so you're with the right people, right? Because you got to be around the right people to make these changes and get where you want to go. But then we also integrated AI, right? So I built out this really cool, it's essentially a little ChatGPT prompt where you can go in there and you can help set your 10-year vision, right? So this actually walks you through all the questions of where you want to be in 10 years. Because having that's some people naturally, they're just visionaries and they can see 10 years, right? But a lot of other people are like, all I can think about is tomorrow, right? Or even trying to plan out my week is hard. So this helps prompt you and ask you really dig deep and ask you some second and third layer questions of where do you want to go? So that way you can start to figure out where you want to be in 10 years. And then what we do is in that workshop, we had everybody go through that exercise, and then we collaborated and helped make sure that, because the AI, the ChatGPT is going to give you, it's incredible output, right? But you want to still put a little bit of that personal touch into it and make sure that it's valuable. So for example, I had one of our 100 families was up on stage, and it was his husband and wife, and they went through their output that they got from the AI, and they're and I was like, what parts of this do you like? What's missing, right? So we made sure that we got that really ironed out and really clear, right? And then from there, it's now let's start to reverse engineer. Let's look at your 5-year outlook. Let's look at your 3-year, your 1 year. But most importantly, let's figure out the next 90 days. What do the next 90 days look like? Because now that you've got that target, that North Star that you're looking for, how do we back into it? So that's how we did it for all the different, we had about 30 people with us the first time. And we went through that exercise, and at least all of them walked out knowing they at least had their 10-year vision. And then the majority of them walked out with, hey, I know now what I need to do in the next 90 days. So we can start to moving that path toward financial freedom.
That's awesome. Love that. Because a lot of people can't see where they are going to be in 10 years. And by building out that vision and then unpacking it into quarterly goals and tasks, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned your workshop. When's the next one coming?
Yeah, so it was so successful and people loved it. And we were literally already planning the second one as we were going. So we scheduled it for actually October 23rd and 25th here in Houston. And we've actually already set the next one. We don't have the exact weekend in January, but it's going to be in January. We're actually going to do that one up in Wyoming, near Park City. So everybody loves Park City, Salt Lake City, beautiful part of the country. Well, that's where we do a lot of our investing on just the other side of the border in Evanston, Wyoming. So it's going to be a fun one where people are going to it's going to be a more operations focus for people, because I just did actually a ride along with a bunch of people who are part of my Revive Club. And they're also, some of these people are part of some of these 100 families. So they came up with us to Wyoming and they got to see our properties, right? They got to walk through them. They got to meet some of my contractors. So what we decided is we wanted to get up there. Plus it's Park City, beautiful ski area. And if people want to go enjoy that, they can. And get out of Houston. So
yeah, that's awesome. Now, true to your money, your rules, I do like to make every episode actionable, talking about your workshop. You're talking about your what you're building out for Revive Club and Revive Method, what would be the one action that you would recommend our listeners take this week in order to get them one step closer to their goals?
Yes, I would say be intentional about who you're surrounding yourself with. I think, and to just give you guys a couple ideas, right? Like you could go, if you're not part of a local meetup, do that, right? If you're not part of it, you could even just as simple as finding part of the right Facebook groups, right? Go surround yourself with the right people. I've been hearing that from my mentors for years and I believed in it, but I realized there's still so many people that they hear it, but they don't do it. And maybe it's because they haven't actually experienced it. Because when you're around those people, it just supercharges your energy and actually your likelihood of hitting it and getting there. And that's why I'll bring up the 2-day workshop. Like I would love to have anybody come down there, like book your ticket. If you can get down to Houston, it's actually like super affordable. Because at the end of the day, I know these people, like we're going to be able to, like, I don't want to go have some like super high priced event ticket. Like I want to make it affordable so people can get down there, because the people I had in the room, like that was the value, right? And being able to be with them for 2 days and the deals that we're going to be able to do together and how I'm going to be able to impact them, like that's what it was all about. So that would be, if you really want to like take an action now, is I'll share our link with you guys. But I would get down to the Houston and I would check out this 2-day workshop. So you'll be around the right people. You'll be able to start taking action. And again, like we talked, everyone's action is a little different, right? But we open that up and we just make it really like, and everybody shares theirs, which is really cool. It's really nice when like people share their ideas, because when you hear other people talking about what their goals are, it helps it, at least me, like that helps inspire me and think about, oh, maybe I'm not thinking big enough, or maybe I'm not thinking broad enough, right? So just get around the right people is the advice.
100%. And I could, I definitely feel that, because prior to joining Owners Club, right, we're both members of, I already had a goal, but it was kind of hard for me to kind of move at a fast pace. But as soon as I got into Owners Club, just being around like these really high performing individuals, and not just that, they're also go-givers like you, right? Always, sharing their knowledge, their experience and stuff like that, so that I could learn from them. I would say that I've learned and done so much for my business in the first 3 months in being in Owners Club than I have for like 2 years trying to do it on my own. So surrounding yourself with the right people is definitely 100% the unlock for your business success. Cool. Now, Casey, I know people are going to want to connect with you after this. Where's the best place for them to learn more, how to get involved, and maybe get tickets to your workshop?
Yeah, easy one there. Not a hard one to forget. Just spell out my name, CaseyGregersen.com/events. And you just go to our homepage, you'll find it there too. But yeah, go to our events page and you'll be able to see that next 2-day workshop. And if you guys are listening to this in 6 months, you'll be able to see the January or the next quarter's one, because we're going to be doing these quarterly. But the other thing I would say is like, let's connect on wherever you like taking in content, right? If you like Instagram, I do a ton of stuff there. Also a lot of stuff on YouTube. So I'm really easy to find, just at Casey Gregersen on either of those channels or platforms. And you know me, right? Like I love just sharing what I'm doing, and it's a lot of people have helped me. And so I just kind of I'm a very transparent guy. Like, this is what I'm doing. And if you can take it and run with it, great. Or if you need help, or it's just a way of us to connect, that's what I'm always looking for. So really, I would encourage people, actually follow me, actually send me a direct message. Like literally, if you have a problem and you're stuck, like please send me a message and go to Instagram, or same thing on Facebook, wherever you want to find me.
Awesome. And I'll have those links in the show notes as well. And, guys, listen to Casey. He's very approachable. So don't be afraid to like send him a DM on his socials as well. And if you're sitting here thinking, I want to be part of something that builds legacy while earning returns, this is exactly what the Thrive movement is all about. We help everyday people become purpose-driven capital connectors using modern versions of private money lending and infinite banking to grow their wealth while helping others grow as well. If that sounds like something you want to explore, you'll find more at thrivebankingstrategy.com, or just come to one of our upcoming webinars and to learn more. Casey, thank you so much again for the work you do and for being part of this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Teresa. Love what you're doing with the Thrive movement. It's awesome.
Thank you. And to everyone else listening, don't forget, take control, build legacy, and remember, your money, your rules.